Alright, so this, I believe, is the video that a lot of you have been waiting for. If you remember, about 2 weeks ago, I released a video on 5 reasons you shouldn't buy a 240SX. Well, now, to contradict myself, we're going to make a 5 reasons you should buy a Nissan 240SX. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so, obviously, this video needs to be made. You guys, like, the views were pretty good on the 5 reasons not to buy a 240SX. And considering that I own a 240SX and the only car I've ever owned is a 240SX, kind of makes sense that I needed to make this video. So, we're gonna do 5 again. I have my list ready. We're good. Sit down, relax, and let's just get right into the video. So at number 5, this is a bit more biased to someone who would want to get into drifting, but it is a great starting drift car. I don't know specific statistics. That's kind of a tongue twister. The S13, so my body style and everything platform, is one of the more desirable platforms to start drifting on. Which to me kind of makes sense because, like, even with a stock KA and pretty much a fully stock 240 can drift, and it's almost better to start on a lower power motor, which is what I didn't do, and learn how to drift, not in the rain, but like in the dry on a track with a low power car, because then when you get into like higher power, you know how to control the car more. And that's why I think 240s are like a good starting point. Maybe not so much anymore now that I think about it, actually, because prices are just skyrocketing, like way up. It's stonks. So yeah, in my opinion, like, I've seen enough stock, like bone stock ass 240SXs drifting like as good as, I don't know what to compare it to, but as like someone who's been drifting for a while. Now, number 4 is a little bit, depends how you take it. In my last video, I said they break a lot, I think, or mentioned that they take a lot of money to fix. But at the same time, personally, I think I've gotten the most experience I ever have working on my current 240 than I ever have in the last, I don't know how, 21 years, because I'm 21. So it just, like, it blows me away, because I went from a 16-year-old kid who had just got his license, was like, man, I want to get a cool car. And then I got my first 240. It was a gray 89. I've explained this a million times now, but it was a 240. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do mods, and I'm going to lower it, and this and that. And then I didn't do that right away, bought this car, obviously. Started doing mods to this, and like, the amount of stuff I've learned. I went from a kid who couldn't even put coilovers on properly to pulling my own motor and putting it back in. And I have had no experience, like, mechanically. I've never gone to school for it, nothing. I've been around cars for a lot of my life, and I've been around people who work on cars a lot, and it's just like, it blows me away to think that, like, I know how to pull at least a Nissan motor out of a 240. I know how to pull a 240's motor. I don't know if I could do another motor, but it's the same premise, and like, that's what blows me away. And like, if I have a small problem on my car, I don't need to take it to a shop to get it looked at to know what it is. Obviously, sometimes I need to ask my friends, like I ask Damien a lot what's going on, he usually knows. But then there's sometimes where it's like, oh, I hear this, oh, I know what that is, that's blah blah blah, that's an exhaust leak, that's a vacuum leak, that's this, that's that. And it just kind of like blows me away, like, to think that I've learned so much from this. So yeah, that is number 4. You get a lot of experience from these cars. Unfortunately, it comes with a price. They break a lot, but there's nothing wrong with getting experience. It just kind of sucks sometimes when it breaks, but I don't know. Personally, I love having to take my car apart every freaking day. Love it. So good. So fun. But in all seriousness, I do enjoy doing stuff to my car, and I like fixing my car, and I don't know, it's just, I've got so much experience, and I've said experience 16 times, so we're gonna move on to the next thing. Number 3, 240s are quite nice to look at. They have very nice body lines. I mean, they don't call it the 240 sex for nothing. That was terrible. So yeah, in all seriousness, I think 240s have a very nice look to them. Obviously, like S14's kookies. I don't know if I've ever shown a picture, so one will be right now. Those look really good, and S15s obviously look amazing. But that doesn't mean that S13s don't look bad either. Preferably for me, I like the hatches, or my preference, I guess, is a hatchback 240 rather than a coupe. Nothing against coupes, if there's any coupe owners watching this. Maybe it's just because I'm biased because I have owned 2 hatches and never owned a coupe. Coupes do look really good, but the thing with a coupe is that it needs a Silvia S13 front end on it, or just get a Silvia S13 coupe. Yeah, like they're nice to look at, and I think that 240s have very nice body lines. When you look at the rear fenders, like they kind of come out wide a bit. And then, I don't know, it's just the way that the body flows, they look very nice. And like, personally, I don't like wings on any car at all, really. Like, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but Mark IV Supras do not need a wing on them to look good. When you have a hatch, or a spoilerless hatch, I think it is probably the best looking car in the world. That's an exaggeration. But I think it's very, very nice looking. Just the way that it flows, like, it's just like, ah... And the thing is that there's so many small things that you can do to these that make them look even better. Like even a stock 240, not the nicest looking, but they look okay. And then you throw some bigger wheels that fit better. You throw it down to the ground, low. And like, they just look so good. There's a reason that these cars are so desirable. Like there's a reason that there's still like hundreds of thousands of people. Well, okay, not hundreds of thousands, but at least 100,000, I'd guess, people who drive these cars, and there's a reason for that. They look good, they drive good. Like, another thing too, if you got a hatch, the, like, favorite mod that I've ever done to this goddamn car, even though I built a motor, I put a motor in, it's fast and everything, I freaking love kooky taillights. That's just like the cherry on top for these cars, along with lowering them and everything, and I just think it looks so good. Along with that is that even if you don't think they look good stock, there is so many aftermarket options available for like body stuff. Like there's tons of body kits, there's wide body fenders, front and rear, there's big wings you can throw on if that's your thing. There's just so many different options for stuff to do to these cars that, like, I think that is 100% a reason to buy a car, like one of these cars, because it looks so good when you finish it. None of us ever actually finish our cars, but you know what I mean. When you get it to the final form that you were picturing in your head until you move on to the next, basically. But they just look so good once you're there, and like, I've never gotten to that point. Actually, I did once. And it was when I lowered my car a little bit and threw some bigger wheels on it, but they were only a little bit bigger. I was like, oh my god, my car's a whole different thing, dude. But now it's like rolling fenders, I want to wide body it, I want to, I don't even know. There's just so much that like runs through my head of what to do to this car that, yeah, I kind of get lost in it. Okay, so coming in hot at number 2. I sound like a radio DJ. I kind of already mentioned this one in the last point, but there is tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of aftermarket parts, quality and reps, and eBay. There's so many parts for these cars that is unbelievable. Like, I guess what I could say about there being so many parts is that you have a lot of options for like what you can do to the car. So like, obviously you could SR, RB, blah 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 swap, and there's parts to go along with all of those. Like, there's swap mounts for like motor mounts. There's like always a wiring harness for any motor that you're trying to put into a S13 or any other Nissan, pretty much, like 13, 14, 15. Tons of different exhausts, so you can have your car sound like completely different than anybody else, or like the exact same, and get a fart can off eBay. I don't even know how many different options for body kits and stuff, like I mentioned before. But there's just so many aftermarket available parts that literally every 240 you see like side by side could have some of the same parts, but they could also have like a billion different parts as well than each other, because there's just so many options for everything. Like, You got Tomei, who makes the good exhausts and stuff, and turbos and stuff like that. They're like the higher end guys. You got Gretty, you got Garrett, you got Origin Labo, Supermaid, Gentleman Kit, I don't know what, if it's, yeah. Rocket Bunny. There's just so many options that it's amazing to see how different a car that looked like two cars that look the exact same when they started can be. And that I love. I just love the fact that you can literally have the same car when you start. Like, look at, Jesus, what am I doing? Look at me and Damien. Damien and me started with the exact same car. We are both a 1991. He might be 92, but I'm pretty sure we're 91. They were both red. They were both bone stock. And literally, look how different our cars have gone. He has gone full track setup with suspension, with a big power KA. And then you have my car, which is lowered on big-ish wheels with a decent amount of power out of an SR though. And it just goes to show that there's like so many different parts. And it's crazy. It's just, yeah. It blows my mind. Anyways, let's get on to number one. Coming in at number one, a little controversial. Because it is that these cars are so fun to drive. Now, hear me out. So, when I say that they're fun to drive, what I mean is that once you maybe lower it a little bit, get some better suspension, and actually other than that, you don't really need much more power to have fun. Because like, look at BRZs and FRSs, all of them have a lot of fun, and you're only missing like 50 horsepower in a KA240. So the thing is that these cars handle really well once you've lowered them a bit. They're a little body roll, like this. You actually do kind of like this when they're in their stock height and form and suspension and all that. But as soon as you lower them a bit and give them a lower center of gravity, like most cars, they handle like really, really well. The steering always feels nice and tight and everything and all that. And I don't know, it's just like they're so fun to drive. And then like once you start getting into like swapped motors or like a turboed motor or something, even if you're only running a couple PSI, it just makes it that much more fun. Like I get in my car when it's not broken and I drive it, and yeah, it is loud. Yeah, the ride feels terrible because my suspension's way too stiff. Yes, it breaks pretty much every time I drive it, and yes, there's some questionable smells from the engine bay at all times. But it still puts a smile on my face every time that I drop it into second and do a second, third, fourth pull or something along those lines, or I rip through a tunnel and all you can hear is the echo of my car, and it's just, oh, such a good feeling. And it's just like, I don't know, I've obviously being in friends' cars like Steven's or Brandon's or this and that, you get that same feeling, but it's not the same as like when you've built your car yourself. Okay, I take that back, not built it yourself, but done some work to it yourself and like you've got it to where it is now. It just makes it that much more enjoyable, and that's why I really enjoy driving, and that's usually why these videos end up going up late, like today's. So yeah, I don't know. They're just, they're such good cars. I love 240s. And I know this sounds really funny because I made a video 2 weeks ago saying 5 reasons you shouldn't buy, but I wouldn't trade my 240 in for the world. I love it. It's a good car. Drives me nuts sometimes, but cheers to that, right? I could go on and on and on about why I love a 240 and why you maybe should buy one, or maybe why you shouldn't, but maybe these two videos will actually help you a little bit. The last video did pretty good. It seemed like it got quite a few views, at least for me. And I just want to say thank you guys. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like. Make sure you go back and watch 5 reasons why you shouldn't buy a 240SX. If you like that one, also go drop a like. If you like the videos, also, maybe consider subscribing. Could be fun. I try and make videos twice a week. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. And most of the time I'm breaking my car. So that can be for your entertainment. So anyways guys, that is going to be it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new here, maybe consider subscribing. Go check out some other videos. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.